Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome back. And tonight we're going to be making some sweet, sticky, and spicy chicken. The recipe for this one I found on All Recipes. It was actually a topic of discussion among some of my friends and myself the other day. We were talking about good recipes for that, and this one was suggested, and I figured I'd try making it today. So we're going to start off with, first off, I've got broccoli here. It's not actually called out in the steps, it's called out in the notes. I just had frozen broccoli florets that I defrosted on the stove before everything started. And yeah, if you want to add those in at the end, it's a good step. Alright, so to get started here, we're going to start off with my measuring cups, which are once again underneath a bunch of other stuff. I will organize that drawer eventually. We're going to start off with a tablespoon of brown sugar. Definitely part of the sweet aspect of this chicken. Then next sweet aspect is going to be honey, and this calls for 2 tablespoons of it. I happen to have a nice little jar here from Trader Joe's. They have like a rainbow of honey. And so today we're using their macadamia honey because it was what was there. This stuff pours slowly, as you would expect from honey. It does taste pretty good, though. I hope I have enough of this. If not, I've got more honey around. I admit I did, when I was reading the recipe ahead of time, I did think to myself, oh, that's a teaspoon. Not a big deal, I've got plenty. Oh, it was tablespoon. I'll leave that to kind of drain for a second. See if I can maybe get a knife down there and kind of collect some of this other honey here at the bottom. That'll probably be good for half a tablespoon. Not even that. Alright, so I'm going to grab some more honey here because I clearly do not have enough. Fortunately, I do also have this nice raw honey from a local bee farm, which is very sticky. And we'll just get that in there as well. This is wildflower honey. So macadamia honey and wildflower honey should make for a nice combination. I'm assuming, to be perfectly honest, I can't really taste a lot of the differences in honey. It's all pretty delicious to me. So your mileage may vary there. Alright, got our honey. I'm going to put the tablespoon away and wash off my hands because that stuff is very sticky. Alrighty. Probably don't need this here either. Alright. Next up, we're going to get a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. That'll give us a nice amount of liquid in this, which is going to be our, it's going to be our sauce. I will need to add soy sauce to my grocery list for this week. Alright, then we're going to get a couple teaspoons of fresh chopped ginger root. So I've got some ginger root here. Grab a knife. And let's start off. We'll peel this to start with. It's probably better to peel it now rather than later. Not even quite sure how you would peel this after you chopped it. I'm sure there's probably a way. Man, that fresh ginger smells so good. Just has that kind of spicy and sort of, well, not quite a sweet smell, but I don't know, it smells like fresh ginger. Oh yeah, that smell. Fresh ginger smell. That's what it smells like. For those of you who have not tried or not had the pleasure of fresh ginger before, well, first off, I'm very sorry because it is delicious. Second off, go get some. It's at most supermarkets. It's not a terribly uncommon or expensive ingredient. It just adds a nice dimensionality to your to whatever it is that you're making. If you hear any noise in the background, that's my cat running around. She has decided that when I am talking to thin air, that is the time for her to go play. That or it's the time for her to come in and pretend that she's never been fed and that she needs someone to come and feed her. Which is ignoring the fact that I usually feed her about 3 minutes before I start. So, doesn't really get a chance. She doesn't really have any right to complain, but she will. Because that's what cats do. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good. Let's clear all of this off. Had a friend of mine ask me about my knife skills the other day, to which I responded, "What knife skills?" Really need to spend some more time learning and getting better. I suspect I'm better than the average person because I'm doing a lot of cooking, but for years, but I'm definitely not, trained or even particularly fast or good. I'm learning all the time, which is, of course, the best way to do it. And, yeah. Oh, and for anyone that doesn't want to do this with fresh ginger, which if you don't, then I'm very sorry. It's pretty delicious, and you really should. But if you decide that you don't, that's fine. Ginger powder should be an acceptable substitute here. Which I also have. Ground ginger, rather. Alright, for this it says a couple teaspoons of... That's a teaspoon. That's approximately another teaspoon. Close enough. Alright, then another couple teaspoons of chopped garlic. Now, I think everyone here knows exactly how I feel about garlic, which is basically that it is A, delicious, and B, there is never enough. So we'll see how much 2 teaspoons end up being. There's a pretty solid chance that I'm going to go more than that. Maybe not by a ton, but at least by a little. I've got a full head of garlic here, and I'm thinking I'm going to be using quite a lot of it. Because garlic is basically the best thing ever. And I will fight anyone that says otherwise. All right. I'm just going to cut off the top and bottom of all of these. Looks like it might be sprouting a little bit. Nothing particularly wrong with that. It's just don't need it in my food. I will say one thing about knives is a lot of people hold knives like this, which is how it feels like it ought to be held. There's, you have got a nice handle. It's usually pretty contoured to, fit your hand there pretty well. Better way to handle it is more like this, where you're gripping the blade on both sides more than you're actually gripping the handle. And this gives you a little bit more control. You're able to be a little bit finer. You've got to be kind of careful. Depending on where your finger comes down on the blade, you don't want to accidentally get the tip of the finger underneath the blade. So you gotta make sure that kind of stays up. But if you're kind of squeezing and pinching the blade itself, you're able to maintain fine control a lot better. So it makes things like this, where I'm using the tip of the blade to come in and very finely slice off the tips of these pieces of garlic. Makes it just a lot easier. I have a lot better control of this than if I were doing it like this. I probably wouldn't be able to as finely do that, and I've got to go back a couple times to make sure I'm taking off the right amount. So part of maintaining your knife correctly is holding it correctly, and doing that by pinching the blade, at least on the big chef's knives, is better. Some knives, like my Icon knife here, it's actually designed so that, like, if I hold it by the handle, like it kind of wobbles around a little bit. It's really designed, and it's really comfortable to use like this, because it was designed to be used in more of a pinching motion. So just as a aside for anyone that might be wondering. I think I got all the paper off, but I'll just try and make sure. Oh, a little bit more on this one. And the whole smacking it really works well to make sure you've gotten everything off on the garlic. A little bit of fresh ginger there. Apart from that, you know, a lot of knife control is really just making sure you keep your hands away from the blade, and then that it's chopping where it needs to chop. So this is going to be 1 3/4. Yeah, I'll just use all of this. So for my version of this, I'm using a full head of garlic. And then after this, get the rest of it off my hands. So now we're going to get a couple of tablespoons. Oh, I should probably grab my tablespoon again. Make sure I've got all the honey out of it. And we're just going to use, I have Frank's hot sauce here. But any hot sauce that you happen to have around should work pretty well. This is going to be the spicy bit. And we're just going to get a couple tablespoons of this. It's 1. And that's 2. Alright. We're just going to come in here, we're going to just mix all of this together, combine it all, try to get that honey especially to kind of dissolve into the rest of it. Scrape down the side of the bowl to make sure there's nothing that's kind of gotten trapped up there, like some of the honey, because I can feel some of the honey on the side of the bowl. A whisk would probably work for this pretty well. Kind of still doing a whisking motion with my spatula here. And you could probably chop up both your garlic and your ginger root more if you wanted to. I probably could have as well, but I said chopped, not finely minced. Alright, so now we're going to be lightly salting and peppering the chicken strips, so I'm going to move this off and over next to where we'll be cooking in a few minutes. And I'm going to grab one of my wonderful plastic cutting boards. And I'm going to grab the chicken breasts from where I've had them defrosting for a good while now, actually, so they should be fully defrosted. I know sometimes I pull them out in the show and I'm like, look, see, it should be fully defrosted, and they're not quite. But this time they very definitely are. Oh, except for that bit right there where apparently 2 of them were right next to each other and stayed frozen in the center. That's okay, something we can deal with. We're going to be cutting all of these into little strips, so it doesn't really matter. Just as long as we can pull these apart. Yep. Yeah, they're mostly fine. There's just a little skin of ice here, and there's a little bit on the inside of the breast as well. I can feel. This one actually feels almost completely defrosted, so that's good. All right, now so for all of these, what we're going to be doing is first we're going to be salting these and peppering them. Wash my hands before I start grabbing stuff. Alright, so I've got my pepper grinder here with an incredibly tight lid. Just going to come through, make sure these are nicely peppered. Grab some salt. Boxo salt. Make sure these are very well seasoned. Which is, of course, always extremely important. Flip them over. Just do the same thing on the reverse side. Let me rinse off my hands again. I'm probably a little bit overly cautious when it comes to this, but it's better to be a little bit too cautious than not cautious enough. I really don't want to accidentally transfer anything. Not that I think that these chicken breasts have anything on them. If they do, I don't want to transfer anything to anything else. And then pepper the other side. All right. Now we're just going to kind of come through and just trim these into half an inch or quarter inch strips. So all the individual pieces that will have the sauce on them and will be absolutely delicious. Looks like this breast is going to have some larger chunks. The others are going to be a little bit thinner. A little bit more like just strips. Which should make for a nice mix. As I push down a knife, I am kind of also pushing forward so that I get that slicing. If you push straight down, you get a crush. If you kind of slide forward at the same time, you get a slice. And it'll cut through the muscle fibers here a lot better. We'll leave that one as a slightly larger bit. And this is the one that's I'm about to cut into has the one that has a little bit of ice in the center. So we'll see how that goes. It is a little bit tougher to cut because it's a little bit cooler. There's still some ice crystals in the center. All right, we've got our chicken breast ready. Got our sauce ready. I think it is about time to move over to the stove after washing my hands again. Let me move this over to the stove view, which, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to use my all-clad saute pan again because I really like it. And if you're making this, I've also already pre-made some rice in my rice cooker, so I'm not going to be covering how to make that. I should really make a video about how to make good rice. I will at some point. But I've already made the rice. That's what I'll be serving this on as soon as we're done. Alright, so we're gonna get this going. get a little bit of vegetable oil. A little bit more. Grab a spatula because I'm going to need that in a minute or two. It's better to have that a little bit early. I'm just going to make sure that that oil kind of gets around everywhere. I don't have any dry spots. These burners are not fully even, so if I leave it on its own to try and flatten out or cover everything, it's not going to do that. But it only takes a moment or two to make sure that we've got oil everywhere. We're going to give the oil a moment to heat up along with the pan. Shouldn't take too long. Pan's making all sorts of creaking noises as it warms up. Alrighty, let's grab the chicken here. Carefully, I'm trying to avoid spilling chicken juice everywhere. Let's get that over here. Slide all of that in. And immediately wash my hands. And then from here, we're going to be just kind of getting this browned. Actually, we're going to also add in the broccoli here because I have that. Pull that bit out. I'm going to cut up a couple of these a little bit more. Kind of large. Nothing wrong with that, but I think that they'll be a little bit better as a more bite-sized thing. We're going to be browning these for a couple minutes until they are mostly cooked. And then we're going to be, but a lot of the cooking is going to take place with the simmering that we do with the sauce. So we're not looking for perfection, we're just trying to make sure that it's browned. Once one side's brown, I'm kind of flipping it over, at least as best as I can. The skillet is a little bit crowded. do want to make sure that we've been able to brown these about as well as we can. We don't want much just raw chicken meat. Now on this particular burner, the center is the hottest part, so I am kind of shuffling stuff into that center position so that it can properly cook. There's plenty of heat around the edges as well, it's just there's more in the center. I think that's starting to look pretty good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add in the sauce. Kind of get it to simmer and stir and coat around. Just try and make sure I get all that honey. Alright, so now we're just going to be simmering this for the next little bit. We want to make sure everything kind of comes up to temperature and has a chance to, all the flavors have chances to make friends with all the other flavors. So, not a whole lot to really comment on other than kind of letting everything thicken and get to know each other. I'm actually quite looking forward to this. It's been a while since I've had some really good sweet and spicy chicken. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Probably could have gotten away with less chicken, actually. We'll see at the end. That's just kind of my initial thought right now. Moving the hot spot on the burner around underneath the pan a little bit to try and make sure that everything is getting a chance to get properly hot. Just as it is any time that you cook anything like this, where you're kind of simmering stuff for a while with a bunch of very aromatic ingredients such as ginger or garlic. It just smells so good. And by simmering it like this, and you can see the steam kind of coming off, or actually I'm not sure exactly how well the camera picks that up, but there's a pretty nice amount of steam coming up off of this. And by simmering this, you intensify all of those flavors, and you make everything, you boil off a lot of the water, you simmer off a lot of the water, and so you're left with a much stickier sauce, which is part of why we're simmering it for so long, when technically everything should be cooked. But that also makes sure that all that flavor kind of gets inside everything, and it'll turn out pretty well. Especially with all of the broccoli that we've added to this, which is going to also pick up a lot of that flavor. And that will probably also reduce exactly how sticky this ends up being, because it's going to have its own water that's also getting boiled off at the same time. And as it kind of warms up, it's going to be releasing a lot of that water to the pan. So it'll probably increase the total water content. But it will still taste delicious, and really that's the most important thing. All cooking is it's basically just making everything taste good. Well, okay, edible and tasting good. There is, of course, a pretty large difference between edible and tasting good. There's plenty of stuff that's technically edible, but you wouldn't want to eat it because it tastes horrible. There's other stuff that, you can look at it and be like, oh my god, that would kill me. Not edible. But you also know that it would taste delicious as it killed you. So those are for the people that want to have a little slice of danger while eating. I think that's where a lot of people, that's the appeal of a lot of mushrooms. Like the wild picked mushrooms, where you're pretty sure that they're not some sort of deadly toadstool or something that will kill you pretty fast. You're not entirely certain. That little bit of danger is actually a little bit of an extra spice almost. Yeah, this smells amazing. I swear, every time I stream, I'm always like, I just want to bottle up the scent, and if I could sell this, I'd make a fortune. One day. One day we'll have the technology. Heck, I mean, I don't know, I could decide that I really want it so much that I go and I start a perfume company. Everyone starts walking around smelling like they're sautéing garlic and chicken in just everywhere they go. I think McDonald's does that with their French fries. They've got French fry scent that they pump into the air. I'm going to grab my thermometer if I can pull it out from behind my camera without knocking my camera off. Can I? Can I? And yes. Alright. I'm just going to kind of see what some of these are reading internally. It's getting close. It's not quite cooked yet. But it is close. I'm going to try and shuffle some of these bigger pieces down so they've got a chance to fully warm up on the inside. apparently you can get away with a lower temperature over a longer period of time. So everything's dead by 165 in chicken. But if you do it at 140 for 6 hours, nothing's going to survive that. So sometimes people, some of the, like with the sous vide stuff, which I should really try sous vide at some point. I haven't tried that yet. But that's where a lot of that comes from. You cook it at a lower temperature for a long time, and it retains a lot of that flavor. So many different things to try. Never enough time to try it all. I can definitely tell the water is still up pretty high, but it is also sticking more to the chicken now. So that honey is definitely still there. I'm just going to let that simmer untouched for a couple more moments. Just try to get some more of that water to evaporate out. And bump the dishwasher while I'm at it.
That was my...
Well, yes, that was my partner, but I wasn't going to say that. Alright, let's do a quick temperature check on some of those bigger pieces of chicken. Yeah, I think these are probably cooked through. Since I'm cooking them in liquid, I'm not too concerned about them drying out or anything, because any moisture that they lose is going to be replaced by the fact they're soaking in liquid. But at least I no longer need to worry about them being too cool to be safely consumed. I have turned up the heat just a little bit because I do want this to boil down a little bit more. See if I can get it to reduce down the sauce specifically just a little bit faster. Moving that hot spot underneath this sauce area as opposed to along the sides, and leaving the bigger things which could be absorbing that heat, just kind of shifting them out of the way. I'm trying to be careful, make sure that I don't have anything burning along the bottom. And now that I'm seeing that trail there along the bottom as I pull that aside, which means that we're just about there. Once you start seeing that, it means as soon as it cools down, it's going to start getting a lot stickier. So I'm going to probably say this is pretty good. Kill the heat, though I'm going to leave it on the burner so it will continue to simmer for another moment or two as it starts to cool down. I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to get plated up. Alright, let's grab a bowl here. I'm going to use the larger flat bowls today, I think. Grab my rice paddle, which I need to rinse off because I didn't finish rinsing in the dishwasher. There we go. Alright, I'm going to grab some rice from off camera. Just fluff up that rice a little bit. Do like fluffy rice. And for this, I've just done plain white rice. You could pretty easily do, yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what rice would go best with this. I like white rice because it doesn't conflict with anything. I could see, oh, maybe some nice saffron rice would be good with this. Although the saffron competing with the other flavors might not be the best thing. So if you're making this, you might want to start with white rice, see how it goes, and then make future rice decisions based off of your personal experience and your personal rice preferences. I've got a nice amount of white rice here, kind of covering the bottom. It's not too sticky, it's just about right. Turn this here just to make sure that we've coated everything as well as we can. I'm going to grab my, I think this is called a spoontula, like a spatula except for it's partially a spoon. I got one of these recently, and I got this one recently, and really makes this very, very easy. Just scoop everything up, plate it on the bed of rice. I'm going to grab some of that sauce as well, at least as much as I can. Might need to actually grab an actual spoon for that. Probably gonna have to grab an actual spoon. Spoontula is not quite right for that. I'm just going to make sure that I get enough of this around on the rice to kind of soak in and provide that extra little bit of sweet and spicy. I actually do quite like a bit of sauce on my rice, so I have definitely added a little bit there for mine. Let's go take a look at the cutting board. Just see how this is. I know how the broccoli is going to be, but I'll grab a little bit here, a little bit of the chicken, try to get a little bit of the rice in there as well. Blow it off a little bit. Yeah, that's really good. It's got that little bit of sweet, followed by that nice little kick of the spice, and of course it's all hot and delicious. That garlic is really coming through pretty well, and so is the ginger. Yeah, that's really good. I could have done with maybe just a little bit more honey, not much, just a touch more. Salt's fine, pepper's fine. The broccoli's pretty great. Yeah, the sauce with that rice. That's pretty great. Well, this is where I'm going to end up leaving you. I'm going to go off and enjoy this. And see if my partner likes them as well. And I'll catch everyone next time. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.